Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first, Nvidia calls an autonomous AI agent the next ChatGPT, launching an open source enterprise platform called NemoClaw to dominate this new market. We'll analyze why this open source commercialization playbook is a turning point and how it could affect AI platform competition. Second, Microsoft threatens to sue partner OpenAI over a $38 billion Amazon deal, risking the most important alliance in AI. So we'll discuss why this fight over cloud exclusivity matters and what it means for the future of the entire AI ecosystem. Third, Ikea's smart home launch fails with a nearly 50% device failure rate, exposing the broken promise of the Matter standard. We'll explore how big tech competition is derailing the standard and what it signals for the future of smart home platforms. Fourth, scientists unveil a quantum battery prototype that charges faster as it gets bigger, defying the laws of classical physics. Today, we'll take a closer look at this breakthrough and its implications for the future of quantum computing and energy storage. Fifth, a gaming CEO's ChatGPT-Assisted plan to dodge a $250 million bonus is shut down by a landmark US court ruling. In this episode, we'll break down this critical legal decision and what it signals for corporate liability in the age of AI. Nvidia's CEO just dropped a bombshell, calling a new AI project definitely the next ChatGPT. He's talking about OpenClaw, and it's not another chatbot. This is an autonomous AI agent. A while back, we mentioned how early OpenClaw agents were already operating your computer, managing calendars, sending emails, even doing online shopping, and how they organize themselves on an AI-only forum called Maltbook. Now, we've seen early versions of agents before, like AutoGPT, but they often got stuck or failed on complex tasks. What makes OpenClaw a potential breakthrough is its architecture. It has a persistent memory system, meaning it can learn and recall information over long periods, making it more reliable. It's also model agnostic, so it can plug and play with different AI brains from Google, OpenAI, or Anthropic to use the best tool for the job. Instead of just answering questions, it completes tasks, makes decisions, and takes action with minimal input from you. The claim from CEO Jensen Huang is that OpenClaw is now the largest, most popular, the most successful open source project in the history of humanity. We previously noted that within just 1 week, more than 37,000 agents joined Maltbook, a hint of the velocity behind that claim. To understand the power here, Huang says with this technology, every carpenter can now be an architect. Every plumber will become an architect. He described how an agent could autonomously learn to design a kitchen from a simple prompt, then reflect on and refine its own work. Now, this is an incredible vision of upskilling everyone. However, history shows that automation can also lead to de-skilling. Some experts are sounding the alarm. For example, Microsoft's AI chief, Mustafa Suleyman, predicted that AI could replace most white-collar jobs in the next 12 to 18 months. The question is, will these agents truly elevate the workforce, or will they devalue specialized expertise, concentrating power in the hands of those who control the AI platforms? And when thousands of agents start coordinating, researchers warned about emergent behaviors, complex, unpredictable group actions, prompting Elon Musk to call it the very early stages of singularity. The vision is to let anyone create their own personal agent with just one line of code. As we discussed, that only scales if agents share a common way to talk and discover skills. Think the emerging agent-to-agent protocols acting like a universal translator and rulebook. But this is where the situation takes a more complex turn. The rapid rise of AI that can act on its own has triggered major concerns around security, privacy, and control. So the thing is, the threat model for an autonomous agent is terrifying. We're talking about vulnerabilities like prompt injection, where a malicious actor could trick your agent into sending all your money to a scammer, or goal hijacking, where the AI decides to pursue its own unintended and potentially harmful objectives. This creates a huge legal vacuum. If an agent makes a costly mistake, who's liable? Is it you, the developer of the agent, or the company providing the platform? Right now, nobody has a clear answer. Layer in large-scale agent swarms like Maltbook, and you get unpredictable group dynamics on top of single-agent risks. This is the central conflict. How do you unleash this power without unleashing chaos? Continuing our last discussion of the AI power struggle. Meta absorbed Maltbook's CEO and COO into its new Meta Superintelligence Labs to push agent applications, while OpenAI hired OpenClaw's original inventor, Peter Steinberger, to double down on the foundational tech. Today, the focus shifts to Nvidia staking out the enterprise layer, and that's where Nvidia is making its move. The company immediately announced NemoClaw, an enterprise-grade version designed to put guardrails on this exact technology. They're building in privacy protections, oversight tools, and enterprise-grade security to ensure these agents can be deployed safely. This is a classic and brilliant business strategy, sometimes called the open source commercialization playbook. It's exactly what companies like Red Hat did with the free Linux operating system, or what Databricks did with Apache Spark. You let the open source community build something popular and powerful, and then you sell a secure, reliable, enterprise-ready version to big corporations who are afraid to use the free version. This isn't just about a new tool, it's a strategic power play. By providing the secure, scalable solution for autonomous AI, Nvidia is positioning itself to control the very infrastructure for this next wave, aiming to unlock a future where agents don't just assist, but act on a human's behalf. And remember, the core technology remains open source for now, so NemoClaw's bet is to wrap that raw power in the compliance, security, and support enterprises need. Speaking of high-stakes maneuvering in the AI world, the industry's most important alliance might be on the verge of collapse. Now, get this. Microsoft is considering suing its own partner, OpenAI, over a $50 billion deal with its biggest rival, Amazon. This is a potential bombshell that could shatter their partnership. A while back, we talked about how legal showdowns can redraw the AI power map. The latest twist is that the fracture is now inside the Microsoft OpenAI alliance itself. The core of the issue is this. For years, OpenAI has been massively reliant on Microsoft's Azure cloud for the immense computing power its AI models need. But relying on a single provider creates huge risks, what the industry calls vendor lock-in. So this move with Amazon is a strategic play by OpenAI to diversify and avoid being completely dependent on Microsoft. It's a declaration of independence, but it's putting them on a collision course with their most important backer. The dispute centers on a new OpenAI enterprise platform called Frontier. Last month, OpenAI and Amazon announced a deal making Amazon Web Services the exclusive cloud provider for it. But there's a massive problem. Microsoft says its own multi-billion-dollar partnership guarantees its Azure cloud platform is the exclusive home for OpenAI's core models. It all comes down to the technical details. Microsoft's exclusive deal covers OpenAI's core models. Think of these as the foundational AI brains, like GPT-4, but this new platform, Frontier, isn't the model itself. Actually, it's what we call an application layer that sits on top. Frontier is a system designed to let businesses build their own AI agents that can connect to their private data, like customer databases and sales reports. So OpenAI and Amazon are basically arguing that since Frontier is a separate platform for using AI, it doesn't violate the deal for hosting the core models. It's a very clever and very risky legal distinction. And remember, as we broke down a while back, you can't just surgically tweak a trained model or make it forget true machine. Unlearning is brutally hard and often unrealistic. That's why drawing a hard line between the core models Microsoft claims and the application layer Amazon would host isn't just legal hair splitting, it's the whole ballgame. This all begs the question, can OpenAI offer its new platform on Amazon's cloud without violating its core deal with Microsoft? According to reports, Microsoft executives believe this new deal violates the spirit, if not the very letter, of their agreement. And while the companies are reportedly in talks to avoid a lawsuit, the tension is boiling over. This flare-up comes despite a recent non-binding arrangement that ostensibly gave OpenAI some room to work with other partners, clearly not enough to keep this from igniting. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. Microsoft is walking an antitrust tightrope. This is a high-stakes gamble because regulators in the US and Europe are already investigating whether Microsoft has too much control over the AI market because of its deep partnership with OpenAI. If Microsoft now sues to enforce exclusivity and block a competitor like Amazon, it could hand those regulators the exact evidence they're looking for to argue that Microsoft is stifling competition. It's a scenario where winning in court could mean losing big with regulators. We previously focused on a different kind of legal clash, Hollywood's IP fight with AI as a turning point where the law checked the pace of innovation. Today, the focus shifts from copyright to competition law, and the stakes are just as high. A source familiar with Microsoft's position just dropped an absolute hammer, stating, quote, "We know our contract. We will sue them if they breach it." The source then delivered the final blow, adding, "If Amazon and OpenAI want to take a bet on the creativity of their contractual lawyers, I would back us, not them." A $50 billion AI showdown is brewing between the biggest names in technology, and the partnership that defined the AI boom is now on the brink of a legal war. This isn't just about a contract. It's a battle for who will own the entire AI ecosystem, from the models themselves to the application layer where the real work gets done. And as we've said a while back, you can't easily unwind the past in AI, whether it's baked in training data or deep cloud dependencies, which is exactly why this line in the sand fight matters so much. That conflict between Microsoft and Amazon highlights the fierce competition at the top, but sometimes that same competition has consequences for consumers, as Ikea is finding out the hard way. The company just tried to build a smart home for everyone, with gadgets starting at a jaw-dropping $6, but the entire project is hitting a wall, and it's exposing a massive problem at the heart of the tech industry. What's important to understand is that this was a calculated risk by Ikea. The company made a high-stakes bet to become the default entry point for the mass-market smart home. The strategy was to accept the short-term technical pain of being a first mover in exchange for long-term market position, offering affordable products like a $9 color-changing bulb when competitors like Philips Hue charge upwards of $30 for a similar product. The promise was simple: a new line of affordable smart bulbs, sensors, and plugs using a standard called Matter, designed to connect seamlessly to any platform, from Apple Home to Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. But in reality, it's an absolute mess. Reddit forums and user reviews are flooded with reports of connectivity failures. One YouTuber's attempt to connect a device was so difficult it was described as painful to watch. And these aren't isolated incidents. The scale of the problem is staggering. One user on Reddit documented their attempt to set up 60 of Ikea's new smart buttons. In the end, only 31 could be permanently integrated into their system. That's a failure rate of nearly 50%. This shows the final, most complex phase of product testing has effectively been offloaded onto paying customers who are expected to perform expert-level troubleshooting on a product designed for the mass market. While Ikea initially pointed to complicated home networking setups, the widespread nature of the issues points to something much bigger, a problem with the core promise of Matter itself. This reveals what experts call the certification paradox. A device can be officially Matter certified in a lab, but still fail spectacularly in the real world. This proves there's a fundamental gap between a clean, lab-based validation and the messy, chaotic reality of our home Wi-Fi networks. So when a company blames your network, the certification they rely on simply isn't good enough. You see, Matter was supposed to be the great unifier, forcing tech giants to finally play nice and create a single, reliable smart home ecosystem. But that's not what's happening. The cooperative spirit has stalled, and it's now every platform for itself in the race for users. Despite co-creating the standard, the big tech companies have been hesitant to fully embrace it. They continue to prioritize their own proprietary ecosystems, leading to inconsistent support and creating what experts call competition, a messy blend of cooperation and competition. For example, the initial version of the network protocol that Matter uses, called Thread, actually created separate siloed mesh networks for each brand. Your Google devices couldn't talk to your Apple devices on the same network, defeating the entire purpose. This has created chaos. Instead of working together, competing devices from Apple, Google, and Amazon are causing network conflicts in users' homes. At a technical level, the problem is that many of these new devices use something called a thread border router to connect to your home network. You might have an Apple HomePod, a Google Nest Hub, and an Amazon Echo, and each one can act as its own border router. But because the companies haven't fully ironed out the rules, these routers don't share credentials properly. The result? You end up with 3 separate invisible networks in your house that actively compete with each other, causing devices to drop off or become completely unreachable. It's like having 3 different Wi-Fi networks that refuse to talk to each other. It got so bad, the organization behind Matter had to set up a special lab just to help manufacturers test if their devices actually work with all the different platforms, something the standard was supposed to handle automatically. And that lab's very existence is proof of the problem. It's there to replicate the real world chaos that the initial certification process completely misses. Ikea is now scrambling to release software updates, but its stumble reveals a fundamental flaw. The company built its products based on a promise of interoperability, a promise that the biggest names in tech are failing to keep. The ultimate point isn't who is at fault. The point is that Meta promised it would just work, and it just doesn't. We just covered a story about hardware that's failing to live up to its promise. Now, let's shift to a different kind of hardware, one that might just rewrite the laws of physics as we know them. Imagine a battery that breaks all the rules. A battery where the bigger it gets, faster times it charges. That's not science fiction. Australian scientists have just unveiled the world's first working prototype of a quantum battery, and it turns a core law of energy storage completely on its head. Interestingly enough, this isn't just happening in a vacuum. What we're seeing is the start of a global quantum battery arms race. The research out of Australia is huge, but they are not alone. Governments and private companies worldwide are pouring billions into this. For instance, China has committed around $15 billion to quantum research, far outstripping the US and Europe. And they're already developing things like lithium air, quantum batteries. This is a massive global competition to own the future of energy. Lead researcher Dr. James Quach lays it out. With conventional batteries, charge time increases with size. He says, that's why your mobile phone takes about 30 minutes to charge and your electric car takes overnight to charge. But quantum batteries are different. Dr. Quach explains they have a really peculiar property where the larger they are, the less time they take to charge. It's a feature called collective effects, where more quantum cells actually speed up the process. The science behind this is a phenomenon called super absorption. Think of it like this. In a normal battery, each cell charges individually. But in a quantum battery, all the quantum systems or molecules are linked. They work together as one giant coherent system. This collective behavior creates a kind of constructive interference, allowing the battery to absorb energy exponentially faster as you add more molecules. The bigger it gets, the more powerful this collective effect becomes. It's a complete reversal of everything we know about charging. The numbers behind their prototype are staggering. It took femtoseconds, quadrillionths of a second to charge, and held that energy for nanoseconds. Now, that might not sound like much, but to put the ratio into perspective, Quach says for a battery that took 1 minute to charge, this would be like it staying charged for a couple of years. But that's not the whole picture. The real challenge, the biggest enemy of all things, quantum, is something called decoherence. The quantum state that allows for this super fast charging is incredibly fragile. Any interaction with the outside environment, heat, vibration, anything can cause it to collapse and lose its energy. So the primary challenge for scientists isn't just building a bigger battery, it's figuring out how to shield it from the real world, to scale it from holding a charge for nanoseconds to holding it for minutes, hours, or days. While the current version is tiny and can't power anything useful yet, the potential is a game changer. The technology charges wirelessly with lasers, which opens up some incredible possibilities. Dr. Quach imagines a future where you could charge a drone while it's still in flight. He even suggests that once the technology matures, you would no longer need to stop your car at a petrol station to charge it up. You could charge it on the go. This is an incredible vision, but let's talk about the reality of creating that laser-powered world. Building a widespread laser charging network is a massive engineering challenge. Recent military tests, like DARPA's Power program, successfully sent power over several kilometers, but the efficiency was only around 20%. That means 80% of the energy was lost in transit. Plus, there are major safety concerns. High-power lasers can be dangerous, and current regulations are extremely strict. We'd need a whole new infrastructure of perfectly aligned line-of-sight transmitters that can operate safely in public spaces. So while the idea is amazing, the road to charging your car with a laser on the highway is still a long one. An outside expert, Professor Andrew White, confirms this is a major leap, calling it a really nice piece of work showing that the quantum battery is more than an idea, it's now a working prototype. But forget your electric car for now. The first and most significant impact will likely be in a world we're just beginning to build. These batteries are poised to become the perfect power source for quantum computers. The reason this discovery is so pivotal for the future of computing is that quantum computers need a special kind of power. Their processing units, called qubits, are unbelievably sensitive. Energy from a normal power source is noisy and can introduce vibrations and fluctuations that destroy the delicate quantum calculations. Quantum batteries, on the other hand, can deliver what's called coherent energy, a pure, stable stream of power that doesn't disrupt the qubits. This could be the final piece of the puzzle needed to make large-scale, stable quantum computing a reality. And as a final thought, the materials needed for this are just as futuristic. Some of the most promising designs rely on synthetic diamonds with specific impurities, known as nitrogen vacancy centers. This could create a whole new geopolitical landscape where the countries that can master the production of these advanced materials hold the keys to the next energy revolution, much like the world's reliance on lithium and cobalt today. From the far-off future of quantum power, we now turn to a very present-day corporate drama, where a CEO's attempt to use AI for a shortcut just backfired spectacularly. A gaming CEO just tried to use ChatGPT to get out of paying $250 million, and the whole plan just blew up in his face. This all started when South Korean publisher Krafton bought the studio Unknown Worlds Entertainment, the makers of Subnautica, for $500 million. The deal included a massive earnout bonus. If the studio's next game, Subnautica 2, was a hit, its leadership would get up to $250 million. Now, this kind of earnout clause is common in big money acquisitions, but it's a double-edged sword. Believe it or not, they often become a source of major conflict. In fact, one survey found that nearly 75% of M&A professionals have seen disputes or even lawsuits arise from these clauses. They inherently create a situation where the buyer might be tempted to sabotage the seller's success to avoid a big payout. But as the game neared release, internal projections showed it was on track to trigger that massive payout. According to a Delaware court ruling, Krafton CEO Chang'an Kim believed it was a bad deal and felt he was being taken advantage of. When we place Krafton's corporate culture alongside that of Unknown Worlds, a potential explanation emerges. This might be a classic case of a global corporate culture clash. Krafton is a massive South Korean conglomerate, which often operates with a very top-down hierarchical command structure. Unknown Worlds is a US startup born from a more flexible and collaborative culture. It's possible the Krafton CEO simply misjudged the legal and reputational risks inside the US system, viewing the contract as something to be renegotiated aggressively rather than a legally binding promise. His own legal department warned him that firing the studio heads wouldn't work and would expose Krafton to lawsuit and reputation risk. So, what did he do? He turned to ChatGPT for help. Here's where it gets interesting. This is where the story goes from a typical corporate dispute to a landmark case for the AI age. The key takeaway from emerging legal cases is that using an AI for advice does not protect you from liability. Courts have been crystal clear. You can't blame the bot. In one recent case, lawyers were sanctioned by a judge for submitting a legal brief full of fake cases made up by ChatGPT. The courts see these tools as instruments, like a search engine or a calculator, not as a co-conspirator or a legal expert. You are always responsible for the actions you take based on its output. What really brought this to a head was the next development. The court ruling explicitly states that at ChatGPT's suggestion, Kim formed a secret internal task force. Its name, Project X. The task force's mandate was to either negotiate a new deal on the earnout or execute a takeover of Unknown Worlds. Over the next month, Krafton followed most of ChatGPT's recommendations, preparing for a legal defense and trying to secure publishing rights. When the studio heads refused to renegotiate the bonus, Krafton removed them from their positions. A US court just shut the entire scheme down. The judge rejected Krafton's claims, ordered the studio's CEO to be reinstated to operational control, and even extended the time period for them to meet the bonus criteria. This decision is so significant because it represents a rare and very public legal victory for a studio's founders against a massive acquiring publisher. Ultimately, the Delaware court's explicit rejection of the parent company's flimsy excuses sends a powerful message across the gaming and tech industries. It could empower other independent creators to demand stronger contracts with clauses that protect their autonomy and prevent an acquirer from pulling the rug out from under them. In a stunning rebuke of corporate strategy by chatbot, the court has forced Krafton to unwind its AI-assisted plot. The company now says it disagrees with the ruling and is evaluating its options, all while working to prepare Subnautica 2 for release.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.